The bar was called Meridian. It occupied the 43rd floor of the Harrington Tower, a glass spine that cut the downtown skyline in half. The elevator opened directly into the space, no lobby, no bouncer, no warning, and the transition was so abrupt that most first-time visitors stopped at the threshold and instinctively straightened their posture. The ceiling was high and dark, strung with amber fixtures that cast light like late afternoon through amber glass. Jazz moved through the room with the same confidence as the people inside it, unhurried, deliberate, certain of its own importance. Daniel Hayes had been sitting at the far end of the bar for 40 minutes. He had chosen the seat carefully corner position, back to the wall, clear sightline to both the elevator and the secondary stairwell exit. Old habit. The kind that does not fade. He wore a charcoal Henley, clean but not pressed, dark jeans, and boots that had been resoled twice. His watch was a Casio F91W, the kind that costs $12 and keeps time with the reliability of a Swiss instrument. The man to his left wore a Patek Philippe that probably cost more than Daniel's car. Neither man acknowledged the other. The bartender, a young woman in a black vest, who had learned within 30 seconds of Daniel's arrival that he was not going to order bottle service, and who had adjusted her engagement accordingly, had set down his bourbon with the particular brand of polite indifference reserved for guests who would not be generating a significant tip. Single pour, well bourbon, which was the cheapest thing on a menu that treated the word affordable as a minor insult. Daniel didn't mind. He had been in rooms where the cheapest bourbon told you more about who you were dealing with than any handshake, and he had learned to read price points the way other people read body language. He sipped slowly and watched the room the way he had once watched rooms for a living. Not paranoid, not aggressive, but present in a way most people had long since forgotten how to be. Present was a skill, it turned out. Most people were somewhere else, while their bodies sat at bars and tables and attended meetings they were in the past, or rehearsing the future, or composing messages to people who weren't there. Daniel had trained the somewhere else out of himself years ago, in the service of work that required his full attention, and had never quite managed to train it back in. He was always here. It was both his best quality and his most isolating one. He was 38 years old and looked it not in a broken way, but in the way that certain men accumulate experience in their faces like sediment, each year leaving something additional that did not diminish the structure but added to it. There were lines at the corners of his eyes that deepened when he almost smiled, which was not often. His jaw carried 2 days of growth, careful enough to suggest intention rather than neglect. He was lean in the way of someone who stayed physically active not out of vanity but out of necessity, the way a person stays sharp when sharpness is the only thing standing between order and chaos in a household that contained one adult and one 7-year-old with strong opinions about penguins. The table of investment bankers 3 seats down had already dismissed him. He had watched the assessment happen, the quick scan, the minor recalibration of attention, the return to more interesting conversations. It had taken approximately 4 seconds. Daniel had counted. He was not offended. Invisibility had its uses, and he had spent enough of his professional life being exactly as visible as he chose that the involuntary version felt almost restful. His phone buzzed on the bar top. He glanced down. A voice memo from an unsaved contact, identified simply as Lily, home. He pressed play and held the phone slightly away from his ear so the sound would not carry. The voice that came out was small and extremely certain of itself, which was both an accurate description of the memo's contents and of the person who had sent it. Daddy. I finished my chapter. Mrs. Patterson said my report was the best one in class. Also, Biscuit knocked over the plant again. The big one. I put it back, but there's dirt. Okay, bye. I love you. Bye. There was a pause, and then, as an afterthought, the dirt is kind of everywhere. Daniel set the phone back down on the bar. Something in his expression shifted, not quite a smile, but a softening around the eyes that was more private and more honest than any smile he might have produced for the room around him. It was the expression of someone who had arranged their whole life around a single essential priority and was, at this particular moment, being reminded that the arrangement was correct. He typed a short message back. Good work on the report. The plant's been asking for it. "I'll be home by 10. He put the phone away. The ice had mostly melted in his glass. He considered ordering another and decided against it. He was not here to drink, not really. He was here because the childcare arrangement for the evening had fallen through at the last minute, then recovered, and the sudden 2-hour window of absolute aloneness had felt so foreign that he hadn't known what to do with it, except come somewhere that required nothing of him. A burst of laughter erupted from a booth near the window, a man in a navy suit gesturing expansively. His audience of 3 leaning in with the attentiveness of people who understood which laughs were worth giving. Daniel's gaze moved across the room without stopping anywhere in particular. The elevator opened. He registered the change in the room before he consciously identified the source of it. It was subtle, a slight shift in the ambient noise level, heads turning, the particular silence that precedes something taking up space. Daniel tracked it without turning his head, using the bar mirror with the same practiced ease of someone who had spent years not wanting to be seen looking. She walked in alone. Sophia Calloway moved through Meridian the way weather moves through a room, not aggressively, not even particularly quickly, but with the certainty of something that does not require permission to occupy space and has never learned to ask for it. She was 34, though she would not have answered that question in any room where it was relevant to negotiations. Her dress was midnight blue, structured at the shoulder, and she wore it the way she wore most things, as if it had been selected with the same precision as a legal document. Every element chosen, nothing accidental. Her hair was dark and pulled back at the nape of her neck, which served the dual purpose of looking intentional and keeping it out of her eyes, which were currently doing a great deal of work. The financial press had written about her hair, once a profile that had spent 4 paragraphs on her appearance, before arriving at the acquisition that had prompted the story. She had kept a copy in her desk drawer for 2 years. Not out of vanity or grievance, but as a precise reminder of what she was working against every day. She no longer needed the reminder. The lesson had become structural. Sophia was the founder and CEO of Callaway Capital Group, a mid-market private equity firm that had, in the 11 years since she had started it, with borrowed money and institutional audacity, grown into one of the most closely watched investment operations on the eastern seaboard. She was profiled. She was quoted. She was occasionally called a disruptor, which she considered faint praise, and occasionally called ruthless, which she considered a compliment that people meant as a criticism. She was also, at this particular moment, acutely aware of the 3 men sitting in the private booth at the far end of the room. They had been expected